Hi, my name is Kevin Taylor. I would like to ask a simple question. Have the men in red failed? This is With All Due Respect. With all due respect, my fellow Ghanaians, for some time now, I have been talking about why Ghanaians or Ghana as a country need to understand that the judiciary is slowly becoming the weakest and the most corrupt arm of government. The recent afrobarometer report has clearly backed what I have been saying all these months. The report, which is a public document, clearly states that most Ghanaians, in fact, about 85% of Ghanaians believe or think that the court or the judiciary is corrupt and can't be trusted. The report goes on to say that, and I quote, about 85% of Ghanaians perceived judges and magistrates as corrupt. It goes on to say, while most Ghanaians endorse the legitimacy of the courts, they also see courts officials as corrupt and untrustworthy and believe people are treated unequally under the law. End of quote. Corruption in the judiciary has gotten out of hand in these few years. You may decide to agree or disagree with me, but the sad truth is the judiciary and specifically our courts have become safe haven for corrupt Ghanaians. The corrupt politicians and the corrupt rich in Ghana today see the court as the most fertile grounds for them to abuse the citizens and also abuse the rule of law. Today in Ghana, when the rich, when the corrupt are brought before our courts, they get the best of treatment. But when the ordinary Ghanaian, the poor Ghanaian, is brought before these same judges, they are treated like aliens and denied justice. The courts are quick to pass harsh judgments on the poor, but very slow to even call cases that involves the corrupt politician or the corrupt rich. My fellow Ghanaians, we have to understand that today in Ghana, judges are selected based on their policy preferences or how they bow to people in higher places. The judiciary, as we all see it now, is not independent, making it very dangerous for our young democracy. Until we begin to demand for fair and independent judicial branch, we have to understand that the cornerstone of our democracy will always be on life support. With all due respect, my fellow Ghanaians, now the big question is, how do we solve this problem? I ask this question because the judiciary, which is considered by the Constitution as the most sacred institution, has lost its independence and integrity, all because we the people have allowed a few amongst us to infiltrate the judiciary for their selfish gains. And typical example of such characters is lawyer Asan Kuma. My fellow Ghanaians, there is a specific reason why the judiciary is considered by every nation as the cornerstone of their democracy, but allowing hungry, uncultured individuals take advantage of the judiciary will go a long way to hurt us as a nation. My fellow Ghanaians, Ghana as a nation, yes, Ghanaians, we consider the judiciary close to God. We think it is even closer to God. That is why our constitution gives them so much power to check the executive, which sometimes goes overboard in exhibiting its powers. We have to understand that a corrupt judiciary is basically a dying nation. The sad truth is our courts have become the breeding grounds for corrupt politicians, the rich and criminal lawyers who hide behind the laws to steal and intimidate we the citizens. My fellow Ghanaians, one might argue and say the judiciary has not been that bad, and I definitely agree with that. But in my opinion, and from the afrobarometer report which was just released, the judiciary, especially the courts, are becoming weaker and weaker each and every day. There are lots and lots of examples I can give to support my argument. Now, let's look at these few examples. How can a whole Chief Justice order a judge to discontinue a case which involves a corrupt politician who has stolen millions of dollars from us? I'm talking about the Yao Osafo and Kroll Associate case. As I speak, my fellow Ghanaian, no tangible reason has been given by the Chief Justice why he ordered for the docket. The Chief Justice has the right to take cases from judges when he sees right. But in this case, no reason was given which one way or the other might make some of us Ghanaians, like myself, believe the judge presided over the case is incompetent or has been compromised if no reason is given for the abrupt end of the case. That is why sometimes we demand reasons when the whole Chief Justice drops down to take over a case that involves high-profile political players who have a track record of deceiving Ghanaians when it comes to corruption. I'm talking about the senior minister Yao Osafo. We can't also forget how a judge sitting on one of the most political cases in the history of Ghana has suddenly become a foot soldier for the sitting president. My fellow Ghanaians, and with all due respect, I'm talking about Judge Clemens Honoyoga presiding over the Dr. Opuni and Cocoa Board case. This judge, Clemens Honoyoga, basically went out to campaign for the sitting president, which to me is unprecedented and a disgrace to the judiciary. I can talk about Kwabena Dufour's court case and how the courts are even confused about what next to do. We can't forget how to date the murder of J.B. Dankwa has been going in and out of our courts. A criminal like Ace Anan Ankuma walks in and out of our courts after he was caught pants down in one of the biggest scandals in the history of this nation. I'm talking about the #1 scandal where this criminal, Ace Ankuma, as a lawyer, deliberately went against the judicial ethics to destroy a fellow Ghanaian, knowing perfectly well that he was lying. This criminal posing as a lawyer, Ace Ankuma, was not questioned or cautioned by the court or by the Ghana Bar Association and still walk in and out of our court. We can talk about how the court to date cannot give a definite ruling on the Wyoming case for defrauding this nation. How can anyone forget how Judge J. Balfour was quickly moved to the appeals court even when his conduct as a judge was questioned by the same judiciary? We can talk about how documents in the Dr. Opuni case got missing for no reason. We can talk about how ordinary Ghanaians were quickly paraded in our court and jailed for getting involved in Galamsey. Meanwhile, the same court cleared their Chinese counterparts. Today, ex-Supreme Court judges have become lobbyists trying to force their colleague judges to forcefully retire so that some judges can be promoted to the Supreme Court to satisfy the executive, which does not respect the judiciary in the first place. I say this because this is the same executive that ignored courts when Gregory Afoko was granted bail. Till date, Gregory Afoko has been denied bail because the executive has ordered or has said that he must be kept in jail. The Judicial Council looks on whilst all these abuses goes on. How can we forget how the executive defended and even cleared hoodlums for attacking judges presiding over cases? My fellow Ghanaians, I am not here to disrespect the judiciary. What I am concerned about is how our judiciary is becoming weaker and weaker every single day. The judiciary can't act, can't protect, and can't defend the vulnerable because it has allowed some selfish ingrates to infiltrate its sacred duty. This is making we the people lose confidence in the judiciary each and every day. My fellow Ghanaians, and finally, as Ghanaians, we must be very, very worried when majority of us can't trust the judiciary. This is the same judiciary that will be making serious decisions if it happens that this 2020 elections ends up in court. Yes, in the Supreme Court. Some people might argue that in 2012, the elections were decided by the Supreme Court, which at the end of the day was accepted by Ghanaians in good faith. But my issue is, prior to the 2012 elections, Ghanaians didn't see appeal court judges openly campaigning for a certain president whilst they were presiding over political cases. Ghanaians didn't see criminal lawyers like Ace Ankuma sitting on national television talking about a case they had facts on, but out of greed decided to incite Ghanaians against each other. Prior to the 2012 elections, we didn't have retired Supreme Court judges lobbying for judges who have turned into party foot soldiers. Prior to the 2012 elections, a president never defended hoodlums for attacking a judge in court. And prior to the 2012 elections, the Chief Justice never interfered in high political cases by taking over the docket. These are some of the few things that makes me worried and should make every single Ghanaian very worried. The honest truth is the court and the judiciary as a whole needs to be looked at. I know the Chief Justice, the new Chief Justice, has a lot to correct, but his recent actions about the Crowell and Associate case gives me lots and lots of things to think about. My problem is if the supreme being of our judiciary, who is the Chief Justice, is seen as unholy because of his actions today, then what will the angels who work under his command do when given the chance? We can pretend as if it isn't a problem. The mainstream media can decide to ignore this serious issue, but when disaster strikes, it will never be selective. It will strike all of us. We will become slaves in our own land. Our flesh and that of our children will be fed to hungry creatures. Our children who will survive will become slaves in other people's land. They will be raped, molested, killed, and tortured, all because we refuse to come together as a people with one destiny and reason to defend our democracy. We can allow politics and tribal hypocrisy to distract us from what can destroy us. But we have to understand, and this is a white saying, we have to understand that birds sing not because they have answers, but because they have songs. My fellow Ghanaians, I would like to say this again. Birds sing not because they have answers, but because they have songs. My fellow Ghanaians, I have always said that I am just a messenger without a Quran or a Bible in my hand, a messenger who is ready and willing to speak truth to power, irrespective who is in power. A messenger who is not scared of liars and criminals like Isan Kuma. A messenger who is ready to die for the truth.